Our guest today is the wonderful Carol Nolan Drake. She's been the head of her own consulting firm, Carlow Consulting, for the past 4 years. Before that, for about a decade, she was the Chief External Affairs Officer, the Corporate Governance Manager for Ohio's Public Employees Retirement System, OPERS. So she wears that in-house investor hat. I'm Brock Romanek, today on Zippy Point. So Carol, with employees now being fully recognized as important stakeholders as they are in a company, human capital management is a big deal. That's part of the ESG movement. What are ways to share your ESG report or any other sustainability report or D&I reports with employees to get them interested in the company's own efforts in that regard?
Yeah, well, first, it's so great to be with you again, Brock, and I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. First, I would also say that I would say kudos to any company that is preparing a sustainability report or some kind of E&S report, like you mentioned, and wants to share it with employees. I think that's really important. And so I would say if it's the first report for a company, it can really help to involve employees right from the beginning, before it's even drafted. There's some really great Zoom small group discussions that you can have. You can do some kind of online tool to help identify key areas that should be part of this report. And then when the report is released, it's really important to distribute it to everyone in the organization as well. Sometimes the employees are the last ones to see the reports. Companies are so busy sending it out to investors and other stakeholders that forget the very people that are important in the report. So I would say make sure that it's posted online and that employees have an opportunity to know where to find it and how to read it. If a company is creating and sharing what I would say is a straightforward sustainability report, there should be a focus in it for employees under the S category. And that should resonate with employees, that they're included in it, that they're valued. And investors too, I might add, they're looking for those pieces in the report, particularly because of the renewed focus on social issues related to the pandemic and the health and safety of employees, and then of course, customers.
As I've talked to various people that are in charge of the ESG efforts within companies, it really depends on a company's culture. Some company culture, the employees are very invested in their company's ESG efforts, and getting their buy-in into the company's messaging, their strategy isn't that difficult. But a lot of companies, it's much more challenging. So you mentioned Zoom calls. Are there other ways to try to get buy-in from employees on this?
Sure. Buy-in is really important. Employees experience a company's commitment every day from inside the organization. I mean, you and I don't work in the company, but we experience it from an external view. So I think the ESG strategy, or whether it's E and just S, should really be embedded in the company's culture, part of that company's purpose. And employees should know that. They should understand how they relate to that company purpose. What I've often said is, any report that comes out to employees really has to be authentic. If you want that buy-in, it has to be real to the employees. Otherwise, that buy-in will evaporate in a second. Employees usually, the studies show employees are usually really loyal to the companies where they work, and they want to feel that that E&S strategy is in alignment, with their daily work experiences. So they encounter it every day in their work. And if those corporate policies that are in place don't really match what's going out in the report, you aren't going to have that buy-in. So I always say to company representatives, really take a look at what you are communicating to the employees and make sure that the report is in alignment in such a way that employees won't say, gosh, this doesn't even sound like where I work. I mean, we don't do any of this stuff, right? So look at the salary and the benefits. Look at the leave policies that are in place, the diversity and inclusion policies. One of the best ways to get buy-in really is to involve them in that. And what is so important, I think it's kind of interesting to me, is a similar strategy for companies talking to their investors. And companies spend an incredible amount of money and time reaching out to investors and really trying to give that, company speak to them. And companies learn a lot from those conversations, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't spend the time and effort. So why wouldn't they tap into the employee resources if they have, a positive or negative view of the company? They're certainly going to post it on their social media platforms, tell their friends and family. So involve them right at the beginning.
Yeah, I love that term, authentic. You're right. The employees are in the best position to know if the company's culture, as they feel it, matches what's in the report. So are there ways to measure how you're doing with buy-in efforts with the employees?
Yeah, I think there are a lot. First of all, I would say recruitment and retention are two big areas. Are you getting applications for openings in the company? I mean, does anybody really want to work there? And then secondly, once they're in the door, how long do they stay around? Do you have enough of the gravitas for them to really feel that this is a company where they want to work? And that's really important in today's culture. One other suggestion that I always recommend to companies is to conduct what I call a thorough baseline review of what employees, stakeholders, and others, customers probably are saying about the company in all of the variety of social media platforms that are out there, chat rooms, comments, that come underneath news articles. That's a good way to see what people are saying about your company. And you may not even realize it until you take a look. What I also know is it's important to see how the company looks beyond the workplace. None of us are able to really see what's behind us. And so you need that viewpoint from other people. I would say too, then take a similar look after the publication. Do your E&S report, send it out, and then give some time and see if that has done anything to resonate and gain more buy-in from either the companies or from investors and others. I mean, you're going to spend a lot of time and effort on those resources as well. So you really should take the time to see if the report stuck. If there are comments and employees can make through maybe an internal survey, or you've got some other methodology in place for them to comment about it and express a viewpoint, I think that's really important. Companies are so skilled at looking at data and metrics to make financial decisions every day. They do it every day. And it can be the same, it really should be the same for determining the level of buy-in for employees. If a problem develops, companies will spend a ton of money to try and take care of that issue, when perhaps on the front end, if they'd been a little more proactive with their employees, they might have been able to get that buy-in and help address some of these problems long before the issue developed. Now, investors I know are a different story. Let me just say, most investors I know and work with have no problem providing feedback to a company, and I know you know this as well. If you want their buy-in, companies need to provide outreach and some kind of platform to hear from investors and do their homework so that they understand why those investors are so interested in the company's E&S issues.
Yeah, since I live in DC, I can't help but slap an acronym on your thorough baseline review, a TBR. That's a great. So what about ways to get more input from employees when the company is building its strategy, its theme, its marketing message about E&S for the year? How might companies go about drawing from employees?
You know what? I think it's okay to ask. I think so often there are managers, maybe even higher level people in an organization who are really afraid of what they might hear from employees. So they're hesitant to ask. But I think an effective strategy requires a review from more than a board or a management's point of view. A company, you could be pleasantly surprised by the ideas and suggestions that are received from employees. And so I would say, don't be afraid to ask too. And also weigh that with the comments that you're getting, from investors. That helps a company build on its strategy too. Everyone likes to be asked to give some feedback or provide a suggestion or two, right? We all, appreciate it when someone asks for our advice. So you can understand then a little bit more about the company's risk strategy, what types of challenges they're facing, and employees want to understand that. I mean, they are putting in these hours in the day. Maybe they're at home, they used to be going into the workplace, but nevertheless, if they're committed to the company, they really would like to get some involvement in the process. And so what I would also say at the end is no one expects the company to do everything that the employees suggest, or for investors. They're not going to implement every suggestion that an investor makes either. However, the company should be prepared, I think, to acknowledge those suggestions and provide some gratitude for those, important things that have been shared in a way to make sure that the next time they ask for input, somebody's willing to do that because they felt it was valued before.
Yeah, part of having an authentic report is that you might be disclosing that you had some shortcomings, some failures towards your strategy, towards your goals, and employees will see that. And of course, they had made suggestions and they didn't, and that
Right.
didn't get incorporated into the company strategy. And then maybe the company might not make it around this time of year. Might be a multi-year framework that the company is striving to really achieve the full goal. Look for other Vid-Guides that Carol has made. Great stuff. Thanks very much.